Take it away.
Well, hello again. Welcome back to the Alan Hudson podcast. We've got an almost unique experience today. We've got a national treasure on as a guest. David Diddy Hamilton's agreed to join us. But before we say hello to him, usual conventions. If you like the podcast, please make sure you like, follow, and subscribe. And if you've got any questions for Alan, don't forget to pop them in the comment section, and Alan will endeavour to answer all your footballing queries. So on with the show, and it's indeed a great welcome to David Diddy Hamilton. Thanks for joining us, David.
Nice to see you both. And the last time I saw Al was in the George Cohen Lounge at Fulham, where he was the guest. We did actually allow Chelsea players in from time to time, and I'm sure.
Oh, we've just looks like we've lost him.
We're frozen again.
He's frozen again. Do you remember the last time you saw him out?
Yeah, I do. I wanted to take over there.
We've got you back, David.
Yeah, you wanted to take over at Fulham.
Well, I not really. I didn't really want to take over George, but being a Fulham supporter, yeah. I did, yeah, because you Grant was in the box, remember?
Yes, Fulham supporter.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of his. My son decorated his house, and he treated him really well, and he said he was a total gentleman and paid up on time. But yeah, I remember that day. George was. Slipped my mind. He'd had to go somewhere out the country, hadn't he? And he left the space. I don't know who I spoke to, and I said I'll do it for blah blah blah. And the next thing you know, I think they played Arsenal. Might be wrong. But
let's just explain to the viewers out there, in case they don't know, what David's links to Fulham are. I mean, of course, David, you were once a Fulham director, and you've been matchday compere for donkey's years.
Yeah.
When did your love for Fulham start?
Well, I'll tell you, my father was actually a Chelsea supporter, and he took me to my first match at Stamford Bridge. But I didn't like the ground very much because in those days it had a greyhound track round the outside. And as a boy, you were a long way away from the action. So Fulham was much better because you could get right behind the goal. And I first went there, I would say it would be late 40s. And so it was a little bit before the time of the great Johnny Haynes. And later on in the 70s, I was asked to become a director there. There was a very wealthy man that they were wooing onto the board, and he said, I will only come onto the board if David can be a director as well. I didn't have a lot of money, but he knew that I was a genuine Fulham supporter. And it was the days of Ernie Clay, which Al will remember. I mean, they were difficult times because we didn't have a lot of money. And at one time we had George Best and Rodney Marsh, and we had the famous match against Hereford where they tackled each other, although they were on the same team. They were showboating. And the thing about Fulham was that we weren't going to win anything, but it was like showbiz. You know, we had a bit of showbiz and people came to see the stars. And we always had great characters there. And at that particular...
Sorry, David, that was the image that you really got a little bit later with Tommy Trinder, wasn't it?
Yes, Tommy Trinder was the chairman before Ernie Clay. He was ousted in a boardroom coup, and Ernie Clay came in. He was not really a football man. He was actually a rugby league man. He was from Huddersfield, but he acquired the ground, and there were great fears that, it might be sold and it might be turned into flats and things like that. But you have to say that the man who has the credit for saving Fulham, you don't hear his name nowadays there, is Mohammed Al Fayed. And Mohammed Al Fayed came along at the time when we were in the old third division. We had promotion under Mickey Adams, and Mohammed Al Fayed gave us an enormous amount of money. And although nobody talks about him now because of the subsequent disgrace that was brought upon him, or he brought upon himself, he was the man who saved Fulham. He gave us a lot of money. During his tenure, we had 3 promotions. We went right up to the Premier League. We had a Europa final in Hamburg. We had wonderful managers. We had people like Roy Hodgson and Jean Tigonnard. He had great advisors who advised him about terrific managers to have. And we had nothing but success during that time. And it was then that I was asked to be, the first season I did, I was asked, would I do the halftime entertainment? And that's how it began. And that was the season that we got promotion under Mickey Adams. And then the next season they said, would you do the announcing as well? And I started doing it in on the edge of the balcony of the cottage, which was a terrible view because, as you can appreciate, Al, the Hammersmith end was like, it's almost half a mile away. You want to be in the middle of the pitch. Anyway, the next season they moved me to the 4th official's dugout. And it was great there because I could feel the tackles as they went in. I was so close, and I could hear the industrial language. And there were managers that I loved to hear. Stuart Pearce was one of my favourites. He gave one of his players a real bollocking, and then he walked over sheepishly to the dugout. And he said to the 4th official and me, he said, "I've tried being nice, but it doesn't work." Is that wonderful? We had a Ray Wilkins, who you'll know, of course, extremely well. Ray came into the 4th official's area one day, and he said to the 4th official, "Tell the referee Ray Wilkins says he's having a good game." And the 4th official, pressed the talk back and said, "Ray Wilkins says you're a wanker."
Really?
And we could see the referee shaking with laughter in the middle of the pitch. It was all that repartee that went on the touchline.
Ray Wilkins said it, or you? Because I don't think Ray would use language like that.
No, he didn't. It was the 4th official who said it. Some of the referees, when they became 4th officials, we got to know them very well, and a lot of them were real characters, and we had such a laugh. And I'll tell you who was with us as well very often. Somebody else you will know very well, who was he was working for Sky, was Gary Chivers.
Yeah, he's still around.
And Chiv had one day an enormous ruck with Ian Dowie, and Ian Dowie was the manager of the away team, and it was going from our dugout to the other one. I was right in the middle of it. I thought, my God, I think they're going to have a fight or something. All this stuff went on. There was another manager away manager, who shouted out to one of the players, "Break his fucking leg." And we just stood there. We were appalled. We thought, this is a dreadful. I'm going to say it was somebody who's known as Colin.
Yeah. Today would have been.
Say no more.
But today would have been pull his fucking shirt, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it might be.
I mean, you being a right winger, you was a right winger, weren't you?
Well, I played for the Showbiz 11, and the great thing about the Showbiz 11 was that we were not very good footballers, but we got to play on league grounds, and we got to play against ex-pros. And I remember playing at Old Trafford, and Bobby Charlton said, "I'm going to play for your team." So I've got a team picture of it was the Radio 1 team plus Bobby Charlton. And Bobby Charlton scored direct from a corner kick. And somebody on the pitch was stupid to say, "Bit of a fluke there, Bobby." He did this, by the way, with his right foot. So he said, "You think it was a fluke, do you?" He said, "Well, yeah." So in the second half, he did the same thing, this time with his left foot, and he scored again direct from a corner kick. And this time, nobody said it was a fluke.
Well, could you let us know who was in goal?
Jess Conrad.
Oh, that says it.
So, yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, so Jess was known as Cinderella because he was always late for the ball.
Well, absolutely. He was also known as Lev Yashim in his black gear. He told me one day, I said, "Why do you dress all in black?" And he'd even dyed his hair black, I think, at one stage.
Yes.
To be completely, and he said, "Well, he said, I had no interest in football, and I've watched a match one day, and I really liked the look of the goalkeeper, Lev Yashin. He looked really. He probably thought he was in the milk advert, the milk tray advert, didn't he?
You're right. He said
But
he said he became a goalkeeper because he liked the costume.
yeah,
He had a
absolutely,
different costume from everybody else.
absolutely.
But we had some great players in the Showbiz 11. Rod Stewart was a really good player. And I remember him, we played in one match and he landed on the pitch in his helicopter, which was a great entrance. He was probably the best of the players, but there were some other people who were quite good as well. People who had trials but weren't actually taken on. Some of them were maybe semi-professional, but we did put some ringers in sometimes, and sometimes we had some proper players. I remember we went up to Bradford City after the awful fire disaster that you will remember, and at very short notice a match was arranged at Huddersfield, and we played against the ex-Leeds United team. So it was Billy Bremner, it was Norman Hunter, it was Peter. I mean, we must have been crazy to play. We were, like actors and show business people. And Frank Worthington turned up, and he came into our dressing room. So somebody said, "Oh, Frank, you're in the wrong dressing room. The pros are across the way." And Frank said, "No, I always wanted to be in show business. I'm going to play for you."
Yeah.
And nobody argued. And after the match, he did his Elvis impression,
Well,
which
he
was
would.
great.
Great. So
He was a great character, wasn't he, Frank?
yeah, great character, great friends. He's number one up on my wall somewhere. But where did your love for Fulham? I know you said about Stamford Bridge. I mean, they needed the greyhound track at Stamford Bridge, because they were hooligans there, weren't they? That was they thought it was a greyhound track. We weren't really. It was to stop the hooligans getting on the field, but that still didn't happen. And then obviously our good friend Mr. Bates wanted to electrify the fence. That was some years later.
Did he? Oh, I remember that now. Yeah.
Yeah, he said, any more aggravation, I'm going to put electric fence around. So that was good. So that nearly put a stop to me telling my boy to not go there. So he would have turned, he probably would have finished football at Chelsea if that would have happened.
Yeah, I mean, there were funny times, weren't they? The thing is that you were the kings of the King's Road, and we were the Cinderellas. And there was a time when we used to get a lot of your cast-offs. People would leave Chelsea and they'd come down the road to Fulham. But we were very close. So they'd be in the twilight of their career, see out their careers at Fulham. And I could mention some names, but it'd be going back, Al, even before your time. But it happened a lot. What is great is that we are now with you in the Premier League. And of course, we got a wonderful manager, Marco Silva. Whether he will stay or not, I don't know. I hope very much that he does. But can I say something to you about and get your opinion about the game today? When I first went to football, it was played with 5 forwards, 3 halfbacks, 2 fullbacks. You had the 2 wingers, you had the big man in the centre, 2 inside forwards. It was a really exciting game. The wingers were all fast and nippy, and there were lots of goals. You get, 5-4 or something like that, and it was very attacking. What I find very boring now is people passing sideways and backwards, and it's so boring. The other thing I hate is all the stuff that goes on in the penalty box when you get a free kick or you get a corner. The holding, the pushing, the shoving, the blocking, it's turned into rugby, and it's an awful spectacle for the spectators. There's nothing referees can do about it because there's so much going on. Who do they book? Because they're all doing it.
I really think there is something referees can do about it. I mean, I remember in my last season at Stoke, I was made captain for the first time, and the 2 captains would have to go in to see the the referee and his two linesmen, and then they would spell out how they were going to do things. But they did it all wrong. What they should have done, the referee should have come into the dressing room before the game. I've always said this, and said, look, if there's any melee in the goal mouth or whatever, the first person I see grab hold of his shirt and pull it, or put my arms around something, he's going to get a red card.
Yeah.
That should be your warning. Not this yellow card is no good doing it. Go and just you show somebody a yellow card. That's no good because someone else will go and do it, and then someone else. But if you send someone off, the manager's there to understand the reasoning. It's the manager's fault for these people doing it. They're letting them get away with it. They've got to stamp it out the game. Of course, they don't know what to do. What can anyone do? Once you let one get away with it, they're all going to do it now. And now the big Arsenal thing at this moment is to pile everybody into the 6-yard box, which makes it impossible. But I think before the game, I think they got to stamp that out and come into the dressing room and say, look, I'm laying down this is your yellow card, all of you. You won't get it on the field.
Yeah.
You'll get a red on the field. Yeah. And anyone grabs hold of anyone in the corner, it could even be a defender, you're getting a red card. So don't start arguing with me now. You've been warned, And I think that's where they got to set a precedent. It's all got to happen behind closed doors. And when they come out, they know what they're walking into. I agree entirely with you. It's just, you wouldn't even see that on a Sunday morning with two pub teams.
No.
It's brought, that and pulling shirts, and I hate the professional foul where they can't get to someone and he's took one for the team and all this. I think they got to get red cards as well. Yeah, it's going back to the Chelsea and Leeds game in 1970 at Manchester, referees would look at that and said it would end up a 5-a-side because that's what people were kicking each other. They were putting in tackles, and fair play. That is the way the game should be played, but not this grabbing people. And it's basically what he's doing. He's letting the inferior players off the peg. Because they haven't got the ability to stop them, they'll pull their shirt or they'll pull them back,
They're too slow, maybe, or whatever. Well, I agree with you.
They're in the wrong position, and if I'm an inside forward and I'm trying to find space for myself, I find my space, get away from my man. Next thing you know, he's pulled me back. But that shouldn't be allowed. That should be a red card.
I think you've got the answer to it, and I think referees got to get tougher. And I totally agree with you. I think if they say to them beforehand, if you do that, the first man who does it is off. Mind you, if once he's gone, you could finish up almost sending the whole lot off.
Well, that's the way it is. But somebody's, something's got to happen from somewhere, and I can't see any other conclusion than that. I don't see how they can do it. Nothing can be done from upstairs. They keep bringing that. They're to blame in a certain way, that with the VAR as well, which they brought in to stop. They brought that in as a goal line technology to see whether the ball had gone in or not. That all goes back to 1966, and they brought it out years later to get that one straight. But now they brought it onto other aspects of the game, which is ridiculous. It's just... why have a referee and linesman? Why not just have VAR?
Well, when it was just down to the referee, you would get mistakes, but over a season, you could say that they would even themselves out. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But, what we're watching now, once again, I come back to the same word, it's boring. You're sitting there for about anything up to 6 or 7 minutes, watching stuff played back again and again and again until you find out that somebody is offside by a whisker, his nose is offside, or his elbow. And we've got to think about the spectators. It's just boring.
Well, our game was has been taken over by others now. I remember as a kid, I always wanted once I knew I was going to make it, I'd always wanted to go and play abroad. But one of the places I didn't want to go was Italy, because they played exactly the way you're talking about, Dave.
Yeah.
It's their results were all 0-0. Once someone had scored, to close the shop up and to keep the ball, and that was not the game. The way they, all right, they did well in certain World Cups, but that is still not entertainment. The game is entertainment. And I think the well, not the icing on the cake. I think it's more like the mud on the cake is Guardiola winning. What he's won since he's been here, it's just been so detrimental to the game. It's ruined our game. You know, so many parties. It's and bringing the goalkeeper into play. We've had goalkeepers on the show. I've mentioned it to Pat Jennings out socially one night, and Big Pat said to me, "Well, Alan," he said, "you pass it back to me, you know where the second ball's going to go, and it won't be back to you. You know, it will be 70 yards up the field." And I think most goalkeepers of our time would say that. But they're there now. When we thought we weren't going to get you on the show, we thought you had probably gone for a swim in the Thames before the Fulham game. We're going to say, well, we'll do a little bit on the way this Chelsea manager's going.
Liam Rosenior.
I watched his team in France play the other month, and I love the way they play. But they had their goalkeeper come up and play centre half most of the time, even nobody in their goal. And I thought, if he brings us into Chelsea, there's going to. I mean, they were bad enough before that with their goalkeepers, but now we bring them up, and it happened again the other night. They've thrown away they were in a match. They've probably. I thought they were the better side up until they give the third goal away. I mean, they looked all round that they would go qualify against PSG, but now they're in tatters, all because of what happened, passing it back to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper passing out because everybody's too aware for it now. They're too cute, and it's just. I just don't know how a manager can sit on the line and let that happen, because he's just another nail in his coffin,
Well, I hope that Liam Rosenior is going to do well. He's the next Fulham man, of course, and his father was a Fulham player as well, Leroy Rosenior, and I think he's a very intelligent man. So I hope he's going to get it right, except when you're playing Fulham.
How often do you get down to the cottage these days, David?
Well, I've got to sit. I was their what they call their match day MC for 18 seasons, during which, as I said, we had the most nothing to do with me, but I was very happy to be part of it. It was the most successful time in the club's history. 3 promotions, European final, great managers, and at the end of it, I decided that I'd been doing it long enough. I was starting to freeze my nuts off in the fourth official's dugout, and I decided to hand over to a younger man. So they very kindly gave me 2 season tickets for life, probably thinking I was going to live for about 2 years, but it's probably pissed them off a bit. I'm still alive, and I go to the matches as often as I can. I don't like the real, depths of winter. It is a bit cold, and I'm on some chemotherapy. I've got a rare blood cancer, so I'm on chemotherapy pills, which mean that I feel the cold more than anybody else. So the beginning of the season and the end of the season, I can go, and when I don't go, my son has my tickets. He's a journalist. Sorry to say that, Al, but no, he's a nice, kind journalist, and he goes, and I get all the SP afterwards about how I speak to him after the game, or I watch it on television. But we've got seats in the new stand, and what is incredible about the new stand is, and I mean, you'll remember the days when it was open to the river.
Yeah.
And the wind used to blow in off the Thames. My God, it was cold in those days. But with the new stand, you can now see Canary Wharf in the distance. So you see over the roof of all the buildings in SW6, and there in the distance is Canary Wharf. It's a wonderful panoramic view. So it's very strange for me when I go there to see such big crowds, because I remember the days when we played somebody in the FA Cup, Hayes, I think it was. I think we got beaten at home by Hayes in front of 4,000 people. So, to see, it was like rent a crowd, those days. But to see crowds like there are now, obviously it's very good for the club because it brings in the revenue. And we've got a great owner now who, thankfully is well heeled. So, we can afford. I'll tell you who I have loved this season, Harry Wilson. What a season he's had, hasn't he?
He's a top player, yeah. Top player.
And he's got a sublime left foot, and some of the goals that he's scored. Now that we're talking about things being boring. He's never boring because he's a very artistic player. I mean, you'd appreciate that because he probably played in a fairly similar position to you, did he?
Yeah, he did, yeah. He made different kind of moves to me. He was more, and it's a very, very rare thing in our game today to be left-footed like he is.
Yes.
That always get that left-footed players always look. It's like go back to Puskas, whatever, one of the greatest of all time, because he had that fantastic left foot. And these left-footed players they look. I don't know why they look far much more graceful than the right-footed players.
Yes.
But he is. I rated him highly since I first see him, and I was just going to mention while you were talking about when before they built the stand, poor old Tosh Chamberlain used to stand there, lost all his hair standing out there with
Yes,
but
he did.
Plus the fact, today's game, I was just getting to know Johnny Haynes very well when he had the car crash, because I had my car crash not long before him, and mine weren't a car crash, but I was just getting to know Johnny very well. And I once wrote a book about Johnny Haynes, and it was about where are Fulham going to find the next Johnny Haynes, and I sent it up to him. He was in Edinburgh, and I sent the transcript up to him, and he called me and he said, if you was to publish this book, he said, you wouldn't be allowed to walk in Chelsea again. They were his exact words. And I said, well, look, I don't care about that. Johnny Haynes at his best would have got in any team in Europe, any team in the world.
Yeah.
And Fulham didn't realise how lucky they were. Tottenham, I think he came from over that way. He graced Fulham for years, and everyone said, well, he wants to stay at Fulham. He's a bit like Matt Letizia, he wants to be the big fish in the small bowl kind of thing, but that wasn't the thing. His love for the club was greater than anything, and he was in the England team, so what? He didn't have to go to a bigger club to get recognised.
Tottenham wanted him.
Yeah,
Tottenham were after him.
And I know many teams from abroad wanted him, David, as well. It was, but he wouldn't be budged. He was. No. It's some credit to him, and some credit him as a young man.
Would he be your favourite Fulham player of all time, David? Johnny Haynes?
He would be one of them. I just want to tell you a little story about Tosh Chamberlain, because when Tosh was a great character, as Al knows, and after he retired, he played in a Fulham supporters team called the Happy Wanderers, and I played football with him, and everything was a laugh. He was so funny. But when he was actually playing for Fulham, in those days, players didn't. The warm up was about 5 minutes. The players came out and they had a few shots at the goalkeeper, and that was it. And Tosh came out with a fag in his mouth. He came running out onto the pitch, and he's got a fag in his mouth, having a drag on the fag, and he's, knocking a few balls at the goalkeeper. And that was the warm-up that they did in those days. And there was another time, another Tosh Chamberlain story. There were seats for disabled people along the Stevenage Road stand. And during the game, he went and sat on the seat because Johnny Haynes wouldn't pass him the ball. And I think he had a fag then. And Johnny Haynes, he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm not coming off here till you pass the bloody ball to me." But in those days, football was fun. I mean, Les Strong, who was the Fulham captain and the promotion team, he now does George Cohen's job there, hosts the lounge there. He's a great pal of mine. And he used to play the game with a smile on his face. And it was Bobby Campbell who told him, he said, "Did you stop smiling?" He said, "Well, it's fun." It's not fun. It's more serious than that. But what was lovely about those days, Al, was that the supporters actually knew the players. And after the matches, very often we would finish up in a bar in the Fulham Road with Big Jim Stannard and Terry Hurlock, having a few bevies there after the game. Wouldn't happen now, would it? Because they come off their coaches, got the headphones on, they don't talk to anybody, and nobody drinks anymore. So all that kind of convivial thing between the players and the supporters is all gone now. He's gone.
He'd probably just taken a quick break.
Is he having a quick Jimmy Riddle?
I think he probably is.
He's gone for a quick hit and miss.
I thought it was there. I thought it was a bailiff's, David.
I hope I wasn't boring you. I thought you pushed off.
I said, carry on, David.
Carry on, David. But honey, I want to ask you this: how would you fancy now being a forward in the game today? How would you approach it? How would you feel about it?
Well, one thing, I was different from most players. At Chelsea when I first started, I came in as an inside forward, but I always wanted to play the Johnny Haynes way, the George Easton way, the John White at Tottenham way. That was the way I was brought up to play. My father was very much behind that. So I wouldn't really call myself a forward. At school, I used to score a lot of goals and make a lot of goals. But I would not cater for this. I said strangely enough, you asked the question, David, because I said the same thing about Peter Osgood the other day. If Peter Osgood's played in any team, especially his Chelsea team, and they kept passing it across the back like they do and passing it back to the goalkeeper, he would have went. Well, I can't say the word. I can't
Bananas.
say the. He would have went mad. He would have stopped the game. He would have gone back to the back four and said, "If you don't get the ball up to me quicker than he would have went mad, mate." And that's and that's the only way I could answer that question, because I would have went back and got it off the goalkeeper or maybe, but he wouldn't have got it back off me, and the fullbacks wouldn't have got it. No. The way I played at Stoke, I played the proper inside forward. And I would get it off the back four, and I would be like the link to get it into Jimmy Greenough and our other front men. And then once you get it in midfield, in my position, I know the football field is not that big a place, but it would never go backwards. No. I was never guilty of passing backwards, and if that would have crept into my game, I couldn't see any point really in playing the game.
Tell you what, you're better off really nowadays, if you want to be entertained, you're better off watching grassroots football. I live near Horsham, and we've got a team who are now in the National League South. They've had a couple of promotions, and if you go there on a Saturday afternoon, it's really good. It's much better. And to an extent, they are influenced, obviously, by the Premier League and the Championship, but it is more exciting. And I can honestly say I have seen matches this season where something I thought I would never say about football, but it's actually boring. And what people who are not committed think when they go to see, you take somebody along to see a football match, you expect to be really excited, and there's somebody passing the ball sideways and backwards. Oh dear! And as you're saying, 10 minutes later, yes, you haven't got any further up the pitch.
Yeah,
You know,
and it's I think a lot of a lot of the problems with it now is that greyhound track you spoke about earlier on.
yeah.
The people that watch the game then, they wouldn't stand for this today. Um, it's got out of hand, and I don't know how they could put the prices up as much as they put them. I'm going to meet someone before the Chelsea game tonight, and they're putting these prices up, and that is one of the points he's making to the directors is, they're paying money. This is an entertainment business,
But people are still going. They're still getting big crowds. People are going. Football still has a big following. It's not like, you've got empty stands everywhere. Certainly not in the Premier League.
Well, it cannot.
David, can I just ask you? We want to touch on your broadcasting and your showbiz career before we finish the podcast.
Okay.
I just want to ask you, with you talking about exciting football and exciting players, who are the Fulham players that have excited you down the years the most?
Well, you mentioned Johnny Haynes, who, of course, was their most famous son. But somebody that I loved was Les Barrett, he was a flying winger. And when I played for the Showbiz XI, I tried to emulate Les Barrett, not very successfully, but I watched him do it on a Saturday and then tried to do it on a Sunday. And this goes back to how exciting the game was. He was the archetypal winger. He would fly down the wing. He'd get the crosses over to the big man who'd nod them in the back of the net. And time again, he was part of the cup final team in 1975. He was a very modest, Al, I'm sure, knows him. He's a very modest, unassuming guy. But he was a great player. But we've had lots of great players down the years, and we've had great goalkeepers. We had Van der Sar. We had Mark Schwarzer. In recent times. We had Alan Mullery, of course, was a wonderful player, and played for us. Played many times for England. I'm still in touch with Mullers. He lives not too far away from me, and I'm working now for Boom Radio, which is a station that plays music. Can I say for our generation? 60s, 70s, all the music that we love. And this year we're going to do a World Cup special. And I'm going to get Alan on there because, as you know, most of the World Cup team are no longer with us. Alan didn't make it in 66, but he made it in 1970. He was very much around in 66. I think Alan Ball really got the role that he would have otherwise have fulfilled. But what a terrific player he was, wasn't he, Al? Alan Mullery.
Yeah, he was. But I must go back. I'll tell you a funny little line on there. I agree with you. I said in the 60s that Les Barrett would have got in any team in the first division. And I include Liverpool, although they had the great Peter Thompson. He come to the end. They got Steve Highway coming. Les Barrett was as good a winger as I saw. Yeah. And I would say this to people, how Chelsea never bought him when they, is beyond me. And I
go. He wouldn't go. Man, you wanted him, but he wouldn't go.
It's funny you say he wouldn't go because your friend and my friend Les Strong's a part of this story. And I'm walking through Earlsfield one day, which is not far from where I lived in Southfields, and I was going to have a drink around someone's house, and I stopped. It was raining, and I stopped to buy some flowers for somebody's wife.
Yeah.
Well, the fella selling the flowers was Les Barrett. I couldn't believe it. This is we just come out this pub and we walking around, and I said, "How are you, Les?" And he looked at me as much as say, "How do you know who I am?" He had a hood over his head, and I said, "Can I say that when you played, you was my favourite player? I loved Graham Leggett. Obviously, no one could touch Johnny, as I said, but you." And he didn't turn a hair. He didn't. He just wasn't interested. So I
No.
got the flowers off him. I walked away, and I told Strongy this. I said, he said he was just the weirdest kind of fella, you know. He kind of had no interest in it, or he didn't realise how good he was. If another, as you say, he wouldn't have went. But
I'll tell you a story about that. Last year we had the reunion of the cup final team from 1975 who played West Ham in the final. Peter Miller, the goalkeeper, flew over from America. All those, probably more, of course, sadly are no longer with us, but those who were still with us were there. And Les didn't live too far away, and the club tried to get him there, and he said he wouldn't do it. So I said, I'll ring him. So, because I knew him very well. So I rang him up at home, had his home number. I rang him up at home, and I said, Les, will you be there? He said, no, mate. So I said, well, there are so many people who love you, who would love to see you. Peter Miller's coming over from America. All the boys would love to see you again. All the audience there would just love to see you. You don't have to do anything. You don't need, I won't embarrass you, won't get you up on stage. Don't need to say anything. Just be there. He said, no, mate. He said, no. And he just didn't want to do it. So fair enough, fair enough. Everybody was disappointed that he wasn't there. Everybody would love to have seen him, but he just turned his back on football, and he turned his back on everything that he'd done. I thought it was very sad, but then I have to realize that we're all different. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody's like me, who likes parties and likes spending. Some people are not like that, and so you have to respect that.
Well, so you
talking of parties, Dave. You had a bit of a reputation when you were younger, didn't you, as a bit of a party goer?
How could you say that? I was not that much of a party goer, really, to be honest with you. I found standing around with a drink in my hand a bit boring, but no, I was not a great party goer, but I did have fun.
Care to elaborate on the fun?
No, he don't.
No,
There's so many
no.
different parties to go. Even in them days, they were different kind of parties. We don't want to hear.
Listen, Al knows this. A gentleman never tells.
Yes. Yes.
Well, let's talk. Before we. I mean, it's been great having you on, David, and lovely to hear your colourful stories.
Innocent fun. We had fun. There were guys, there were girls, and in those days, people could have fun. You didn't have online dating. You met people. You met people at work, or you met people at parties or whatever. And if guys and girls wanted to get together, they did, and we had wonderful times. You couldn't beat them. I mean, look at this mob in the King's Road. What a wonderful time they had. The Kings of the King's Road. And let's put it this way: attractive women are very often attracted to footballers and people in the public eye. So they probably threw themselves at footballers, and with any luck, they caught them.
Yeah.
Well, maybe they dropped them. I don't know.
Tell us a bit about your.
It was all fun.
Tell us a bit about. Let's finish off with your career. Tell us a bit about your career. How you got into broadcasting. How you got into showbiz.
Well, I started broadcasting. I was doing my national service in the RAF, and I was posted to Germany, and I got onto the British Forces Network radio station. That was 1959. It's a long time ago. I was one of the first DJs to play rock and roll. Until then, it was, how much is that doggy in the window? And feet up, pat him on the popo. But I played Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis and Little Richard and Fats Domino, and the troops loved it. And, we gave the troops the music that they wanted. Then I came back to England. I got a job as a television announcer. I worked with Ken Dodd on a TV series in 1967, which is where I got my nickname, Diddy, which I've been stuck with ever since. Then I worked with Tommy Cooper and Benny Hill and people like that on television. But radio was always my first love. I was at Radio 1 and I did Top of the Pops. Then I was at Radio 2. And then I went to commercial radio. And for the last 5 years, I've been at Boom Radio, where I have a daily lunchtime show. And we play all the kind of music from the golden age of music, and we broadcast from home. This is actually my studio And where I'm speaking to you from now, this is my radio studio. So all I have to do is walk upstairs and I'm on air. So luckily I can still walk upstairs. Luckily I can still speak. So I'm still in business.
Night we were on when we did Top of the Pops in 1972. I was at we had a ball. We actually ran right on there that night. The Chelsea lads, and I think Sweet were number one, weren't they?
Yes, probably.
But we got the number 5 in the charts. But
yeah.
But you were on Radio Caroline as well, David?
No, I was on the Light programme, BBC Light programme, and then Radio 1. But I was never on the Pirates, no. I was always legal.
All right, okay. Same as me. Same as me.
Same as you. I was always legal, yeah.
Yeah.
But Top of the Pops was fun, and it was never paid much money. I mean, it had 15 million viewers. BBC in those days were very careful with their money. I think I used to get paid about 85 quid. And then afterwards I would do a disco in a pub in the Old Kent Road, and I get 300 quid for working to about 200 people. But you had to do the gigs to earn decent money. That's how it was in those days.
Yeah.
But the most of the bands did it for nothing, because if you got a play on Top of the Pops, it meant the record went up the charts, so they were queuing up to do it.
Sure.
But talking about mixing with, I mean, you mix with the football elite in your, in your time at Fulham. I mean, you truly mix with the, the rock star elite when you were comparing shows and doing TV.
Yes, I interviewed the Beatles. I did one of the first TV interviews with the Beatles, 1963. And they were then the support act to Helen Shapiro. They were touring, and they were in Sheffield, and the TV studio was in Manchester, and they dashed from Sheffield to Manchester. And I interviewed them along with Brian Epstein, their manager, and Jerry Marsden. And Jerry and the Pacemakers were the first band to have 3 consecutive number ones. And then the following year, 1964, I introduced the Rolling Stones in concert at the Palace Theatre, Manchester. And I remember it well. I had a little red MGB sports car that I was rather proud of at the time. I parked it at the back of the theatre, as you could in those days. Somebody thought it was Mick Jagger's car and scratched a love note on it. So for a week, I was driving around with "I love you, Mick" on the bonnet of my car.
Mick
Jagger, yeah. But but rubbing shoulders with the football people was great, and playing in testimonial matches with pros. I tell you, the best game I played in. Alan Mullery rang me, and he said, "It's my testimonial at Craven Cottage. I've got the England World Cup squad, bar 2, to play against an ex-Fulham 11." He said, "And rather than ask 2 other pros, I'm going to ask you and Jimmy Tarbuck if you would like to play for the England team." So I said, no, I said something on the telly that night. No, joking apart. So Tarby and I put on the red and white strip and ran out at Craven Cottage. And I've got a press cutting from the Fulham Chronicle that says, I've got it framed actually, and it says, excuse me, "England scored first when Jack Charlton gave a fine ball to David Hamilton, who crossed for Bobby Charlton to rocket it into the back of the net." And people say to me, "When did you play for England?" And I say, "Craven Cottage, 1976, I think it was." Alan Mullery's testimonial. So I always thank Mullers for doing that. And I was that day. I was very quiet in the dressing room.
Overawed, maybe.
I was just a bit overawed.
And did you get a cap for that? Because they give caps to everybody else. You must have got a cap.
No, I didn't get a cap actually. No,
yeah,
not even an unofficial one. No, but I can't remember who the two were. Who I think George didn't play, so I think Tarbuck played in his place, and I think Alan Ball maybe didn't play, and I played in his place. So with Alan Ball, I'd have fitted the strip, wouldn't I?
Well, absolutely. You would have had go to the tailor and get it fitted.
No, 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 I'd have fitted the strip. Yeah. Anyway, can I just say, while I'm here, since you've got me here, I'll let you wrap it up. But can I just say how great it is to see you, Al, and great to see that you're doing this. And I'm sure that you've got a terrific following and lots of people who love to see you and your guests and see what you do. So good on you, mate. And
Thank you.
I wish you luck tonight. Hope you get a good result.
Well, I must say, David, I've got to disappoint you. I'm not a Chelsea supporter. I'm
No.
no. That's quite.
You're a Fulham supporter.
Well, but as a child, my father come from Fulham Green. Fulham Green, he just around the corner from not far from the cottage, and I was brought up on the master of them all, Johnny Haynes. And I was in love with. I followed football. I was telling someone the other day when I went down to watch Wimbledon play Northampton and talking to these people from Northampton. And I remember when Fulham had to go to Northampton, 63, 64, something like that.
Yeah.
To save off relegation. And my father and I went on the Fulham coach, and they went there, and Johnny Haynes scored a great goal. Bobby Robson scored a great goal. We beat Fulham we beat Northampton 4-2. They had a fella called Graham Moore who played at Chelsea, so there was a connection there. But no, that's the only away game I've been away with a team from London has been Fulham. So I don't know what way we can take that. But then the problem I have with Fulham is my dad took me there to say, my son's a good player, take him on, and they said he's too small. So I don't know what chance you would have got if you was a good player.
Well, I actually signed up for Subbuteo, and they made me their star striker. The commentator used to say that when we were playing football for the Showbiz XI, we'd be running up and down, like blue-ass flies, and the commentator would take the mickey out of us all. And that's what he'd say to number 7 for the Showbiz XI is David Hamilton. We got him on a free transfer from Subbuteo. And then he'd say number 8 is Robert Powell, who played Jesus of Nazareth. That's why he's no good on crosses. It's a terrible joke, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
it's a
good
dreadful
right.
joke.
But the sort of jokes your friend Tony Blackburn made a living out of.
Please. Now you've spoiled it now. I was enjoying myself.
David, I must say you look extremely well. I'm hoping that you're well.
Well, I've got this blood cancer. It's a thing called polycythemia vera. Sounds like one of my old girlfriends, but it's actually a fairly rare blood cancer, and you have to take chemotherapy. But luckily, I take pills. So the only thing is that I get a bit tired at times, and I feel a bit cold, So, but apart from that, I'm able to continue doing all the things that I love doing, like talking to you. So.
Well, great, mate. I'm glad you could come on, and I wish you well, and hope you continue to. I might even switch into Boom this afternoon, whenever it is Monday.
Well,
something like
Monday to Friday, 12 till 2. You should do, because I tell you what, you'll love the music, and what we do is we take people back to a happier time when we don't have the problem. We don't talk about politics. We don't talk about anything that's going on. You get the news headlines, and then we're back to just fun. We have a few laughs and jokes. Listeners send me lots of jokes, which I use. Would you like me to tell you one of the jokes that listeners sent me recently?
As long as it's clean, because we have none of that stuff on here.
It's reasonably clean.
I'm joking.
Do you remember when Celia Imrie farted on Celebrity Traitors? Yeah, and it was the only Trump the BBC didn't edit. So what
Nice
I
one.
do, because it's boom radio, what I do is I tell these jokes and then I go boom, boom at the end of it.
Well, yeah. Boom, boom.
And the,
That's
ra-
a
the
great.
and the radio station itself is booming, isn't it?
Yes, doing very well. Yeah, we've got people like Simon Bates on there, Roger Day, who was on the Pirates, Graham Dean and Nicky Horn, who were on Capital Radio. So lots of very experienced broadcasters. I'm actually the oldest one, um, but some of them are, near to catching me up. I do all these jokes about getting old. I say that, getting old is when your wife says, "Let's go upstairs and make love." And you say, "Which one would you like? I can't do both." So what's great is the audience relate to it. They say, "Oh yeah, that's right. That's how I feel."
Your listeners. Your listeners.
I'm,
So
Your
I'm,
listeners.
you don't have a phone in or nothing like that.
No, we don't have a phone in. What we do
No.
is we just have lots of great music and in between a few fun and frolics.
Yeah,
I did say frolics.
yes, yes. Oh, it's great. It's great to keep that music keep going. My friend's got a pub in Fulham, and he's terrific at playing all the music that I'm sure that you play all the great music of the
Yeah.
60s and 70s and all that. That was my era. That we still love all that. I still play it, and it will never. Today's music is not with me.
Well, Al, it's the golden era of music, golden age of music, and it was the time when music had melody, when the words meant something, and yeah, a lot of it. I do a thing. My wife started doing this because she listens to the show while I'm upstairs, and she dances around the kitchen. So I go down to get a cup of tea, and I see her dancing around the kitchen, and I thought, hang on a second, I reckon a lot of my listeners do that. So what I do now, I often use that phrase. And I put a record on and I say, "This will get you dancing around the kitchen." And I play something, and then I get feedback, via email and said, I was dancing around the kitchen for half an hour today or whatever. So it's a happy show. And the world at the moment is not a very happy place, is it?
No, no, no,
This country is not a very happy country. So
no.
we're there. I take my happy pill in the morning and I have
Yeah.
my happy injection and I go on there and for 2 hours I'm Mr. Happy and there are
Well
no
done,
problems
you.
in the
Well
world.
done,
I
you.
might be a miserable sod when I come off, but for 2 hours I'm Mr. Happy.
No, you've hit it very well this morning. Listen, have you got a contact for Elton John? Do you ever come across him?
Well, I played football with Elton once at Brighton. The old Goldstone ground. We played there, and no one would get in the bath with him after the game. Remember we had a big communal bath, and
I must show you. I must show you something. This is why I'm asking
no one
you.
would get him in the bath with him. He's off again. Look, he's gone again. Where's he gone?
He's off to get some sort of
he's getting a-
memorabilia.
He's getting a
No,
smudge.
no,
He's getting a smudge of Elton John.
I've been talking to my son about it. This is the best book I've read for a long, long
Yes.
time,
Yes, Watford Forever.
and
No, I've heard about that. Yes.
it's all about him and Graham and their relationship
yes.
and how it should have been called The Odd Couple, really, but it's just
Yes.
what I know. Elton, I've been in his dressing room a couple of times. I met him around David Frost one night and before a concert, and he's a great fella and one of my favourite artists, if not the favourite. And I wondered if there's a way, if you ever come across him, just give him a message that I want him to come on the show.
I haven't seen him for a long time, and if I could get hold of him, he'd be on my program as well. That because we do
Yeah.
sometimes have guests on there. But no, I don't know. He's probably not in this country now, is he? Not much.
Well, I
It
don't
might
really
be,
know. I mean, I knew I've left message with Phil Collins to tell the truth, but he's not so well, Phil.
No.
And they've never got back to me. His agent never got back to me, so I'm not very happy with him. I love Phil Collins. I love Phil. I know Phil, but I want really to talk not about Elton's music or I love his music. I want to talk. This is the finest book related to football,
Yeah.
and all supporters all over the world should read this book. And
Yes.
And because what Elton John done for Watford, is something what you were talking about.
I'm going to get something now for you. Hang on 1 second.
Don't forget your headphones.
I'm going to get a book for you. Now, you ought to get this book. Look. That's David Hamilton's Long and Winding Road. And it's the story of my journey from this farm where I live now, where I grew up. I was evacuated to this farm during the war. And Junior Campbell, who was in the band Marmalade, Oobla Dee Oobla Da, he was living here. And I bought this house from him 20 years ago and came back to the farm that I grew up on. But this book, we'll get a nice plug on here, boys.
Why not?
This
Get it up there.
tells the story of my radio career, my television career, and there's lots of football in here, and lots of pictures of there's Bobby Charlton and the match I was telling you about, and the game with Frank Worthington. And there's a lot about Fulham in here, and it does just a little warning to anybody who may buy this. I'll hold it up here. This book does contain sex, drugs, and rock and roll, but not all at the same time.
Well, that's probably as good a note as any to wrap up the show. Really, it's been great, hasn't it, Al? But having David on the show.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a shame. Everything you always look back, you got regrets and shame because of the day I did at Fulham. When George Cohen was away, and I stood in for him. I should never be a stand-in for George Cohen. I don't know why I did that, but
you were very good. You were very good, and it was a pleasure talking to you.
Well, my love for Fulham. Then I must. I've got a fantastic friend from school, and he's Jamaican. His name is Bill Boyce. I can always mention him on our show. He was the best. He was the best cricker at school. I was the best footballer. He was the best sprinter. I was the best long distance runner. So we had it all wrapped up. And I took this boy, the young Billy, he's my age. He looks like my son or my grandson, but only a different colour. He's Jamaican. But I love him like a brother. And he come to watch me play football one day and at school. He was about 13, no, about 12. And we were one short, and my father said to him, Bill, his name was Orville Boyce. He said, Bill, go and put these boots on. You're playing. He said, but Mr. Hudson, I've never kicked a ball before. He says, don't worry about it. You just put them on, stand on the halfway line. When Alan gets it, run. And he ended up our leading goal scorer, and he played for West London. Now he's an avid. He hasn't stopped going from Fulham since I first took him. I took him there 64 years ago, and he doesn't miss a match. So we'll dedicate this show to him, from Bill Boyce to David Hamilton.
Yeah.
Two great Fulham supporters, and I'm sure you'd like.
Okay. Al, you are a legend, and it's been a great pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much, Sake. Thanks for coming on, and we ain't waited a long time for you. We'd have cut a lot of people off, You got away with it.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, David.
Good luck with that.